Affirming God, how often you speak to us and how often do we miss it? How often do you whisper blessings over us that we refuse to hear? Open our hearts, great God. Create space in us to not only hear these words, but to believe the good news that's tucked between them. We are hungry for your wisdom, so speak to us now. With hope and curiosity, we listen. With hope and curiosity, we dare to begin again. And so bless us as we begin again. And may the words of my mouth and the meditation of all of our hearts be acceptable to you, our rock and our Redeemer. Maya Angelou said once that there's no greater burden than carrying an untold story inside of you. Angelou knew this burden well. As a survivor of trauma, she experienced firsthand how silence can oppress. For years, she chose not to speak, believing her words could harm others, and in her silence, she discovered how an untold story festers, not just as an absence of voice, but as a deep disconnection from oneself and the world. For her and for so many, the act of sharing a story became a means of liberation. Angelou's success as a storyteller notwithstanding, her words pierce the heart of the human experience. We all carry untold stories. Stories of dreams deferred, moments of rejection, fears of inadequacy, quiet loneliness, or the quiet ache of being told explicitly or implicitly that we are too much or not enough. Think about your own life for just a moment. Is there a story inside of you, a pain, a truth, or even a joy that you've hesitated to share? Perhaps it's the fear of judgment. Maybe you've been taught that your story doesn't matter, or worse, that your very existence is a burden. These untold stories are like anchors weighing us down, pulling us into isolation. I think of a beloved one to me who confided that she had been told as a child that she was an accident. Her parents didn't mean harm, but that casual remark planted a seed of unworthiness in her soul. For years, she carried a story that whispered, "You shouldn't be here. You were a mistake. You were a burden." My painful, untold story is called the "We love you, Wendy, but" refrain. The Cliff Notes version goes something like this: "Honey, you are just too much." Angelou's words resonate so deeply because we live in a world that reinforces these narratives. But here, there is good news, especially as we turn to the stories of Advent, because right here, God tells a different story. While the world measures our worth by what we achieve or produce or conform to, God declares that we are blessings, not burdens. Advent, this season of new beginnings, this season that's readying us for Jesus' arrival, this season that's preparing a way for God incarnate, God in the flesh, God with us, Emmanuel, this season invites us to step into this counter-narrative, to embrace the radical truth that we are beloved, we are chosen, and we are essential to God's unfolding story. So this morning, as we prepare to meet God, we will reflect on Mary's call and Isaiah's promise. And I invite you to release the false stories of unworthiness that you've been carrying around. Together, let's reclaim the truth of who we are, not through the eyes of the world, but through the eyes of the one who calls us by name. And in that, we will get to tell our stories and reclaim the truth of whose we are. So Mary's story begins in the most ordinary of places, a small village called Nazareth, in a corner of the Roman Empire that no one thought was important. She is young, unremarkable by worldly standards, and betrothed to a carpenter. And yet into this unassuming life, the angel Gabriel appears with a message that changes everything. Greetings, favored one, the Lord is with you. Can you just imagine what Mary felt? Scripture says she was much perplexed and pondered what sort of greeting this might be. That's surely an understatement. This was not a moment of divine clarity. It was a moment of profound disorientation. Who was she to be called favored? This is what makes Mary's story so powerful. God's blessing doesn't follow the world's rules. It wasn't reserved for the powerful or the privileged. God looks at Mary not through the lens of her status or achievement, but through the lens of love. And God declares her favored. Mary's response, how will this be? How will this be? Is profoundly human. She's afraid, uncertain, perhaps skeptical. Yet in the face of her fear, Gabriel offers a reassurance. Perhaps it's the one that she needs. Do not be afraid, Mary, he says, for you have found favor with God. Notice that Gabriel doesn't say, don't be afraid because everything will be okay or everything will be easy. Mary's path will be anything but easy. She will face ridicule and rejection and the heart-wrenching journey of raising a child destined for a cross. Yet in the midst of it, she is blessed. Not because of her circumstances, not because of what she did or did not do, not because of the labels she has worn through the years. She is blessed because of God's grace working through her life. And somehow, she responds, let it be. Perhaps she can say yes because of Isaiah's assurance that she is redeemed and called by name. You see, Isaiah's prophecy echoes the truth that Mary hears. Do not fear, for I have redeemed you. I have called you by name. You are mine, God tells us through Isaiah. These words are breathtaking in their intimacy. Think about the power of being called by name. Hello, Joe. Hey, Mary. Dear, sweet Jesus. Paul, could you help me? Michaela's not here today. I have her down here on my list. Michaela, thank you. Rebecca, I see you there. In a world that often reduces us to labels, successful or struggling or forgotten, God calls us by our true names. God says, you are mine. And this promise doesn't mean that we're spared from life's challenges. Isaiah is clear, when you pass through the waters, I will be with you. And through the rivers, they shall not overwhelm you. The promise is not the absence of hardship, but the presence of God. Imagine it like a parent teaching their child to swim. The waters can feel overwhelming, but the parent's arms are always there, steady and sure, keeping that child afloat. This is the assurance that Isaiah offers. God's presence sustains us even when the waters are rising around our throats. So here's what you need to hear about the radical nature of blessings. In our culture, blessings are tied to achievement. We hear phrases like count your blessings, or somebody gets a new job and says, I'm blessed, as though blessings are commodities that we earn through hard work or good fortune. But the blessings we encounter in Mary's story and in Isaiah's promise are fundamentally different. God's blessings, you've heard me say this before, God's blessings are not transactional. They are transformational. They do not say you are valuable because you did X, Y, or Z. They say you are valuable because you are mine. This is why Mary's story is so radical. By the world's standards, she's insignificant, but God sees her as essential to the divine story of redemption, essential to the coming of Jesus, essential to the love coming to the world, to love coming into the world, love made flesh, love made real. She is essential to that story. And here's the even more radical truth. The same is true for us. Think about the labels that the world assigns to the people in our lives. An immigrant, a burden to the system. A child struggling in school, a problem to be fixed. A person who doesn't conform to societal norms, an inconvenience. An elder, a drain on resources. A single parent, irresponsible or a statistic. A person who is unhoused, a nuisance to be moved along. A person with disabilities, an obstacle to inclusion. A refugee, a threat to stability. A teen struggling with mental health, a phase to grow out of. A person with a criminal record, a failure beyond redemption. An artist without financial success, a dreamer wasting time. An addict, a lost cause. And anyone who asks for help, a weakness in the system. Yeah? But God does not see these ones as burdens. God sees blessings. If God can look at Mary, an ordinary girl from Nazareth, and declare her favored, then God can and does declare the same for us. What a blessing it would be were we to call people by God's name for them. The immigrant, a bearer of courage, resilience, and untold stories that enrich our community. The child struggling in school, a vessel of boundless potential and creativity, uniquely designed for God's purposes. The person who doesn't conform, a reflection of God's infinite diversity and inviting us to expand our understanding of love and inclusion. The elder, a wellspring of wisdom and lived experience, connecting us to the past and grounding us in gratitude. The single parent, a model of strength, sacrifice, and unwavering love in the face of challenges. The one who is unhoused, a reminder of our shared humanity, calling us to act with compassion and justice. The person with a disability, a profound expression of God's creativity, showing us new ways to see and value life. The refugee, a witness to the power of hope, perseverance, and the yearning for safety and peace. The teen struggling with mental health, a beloved child of God. A beloved child of God, teaching us the importance of empathy, patience, and care. The person with a criminal record, a testament to the possibility of redemption. The artist without financial success, a creator of beauty and inspiration. The addict, a soul on a journey of healing, grace, and transformation. And the one who asks for help, a gift that reminds us of our interconnectedness and the privilege of serving one another. Through God's eyes, each and all are affirmed in their inherent value, beloved and blessed to be a divine quilt of blessedness. It has been said that the journey to Christmas is like a well-worn quilt. Each patchwork piece lovingly threaded across time and space, and in each thread we find blessed assurance that with every sacred stitch, God has been moving towards us all along. This season reminds us that what some may see as discarded scraps, the maker of heaven and earth calls beautiful and blessed. Mary, an ordinary girl from the obscure corners of Nazareth, was not cloaked in power or prestige, but was blanketed in belovedness. And that was enough, because from the beginning of time, God has given us reassurances. Do not be afraid. When we wonder if our quiet worries or loud wonderings matter in the vast expanse of the cosmos, these words remind us that God knows our wandering hearts, acknowledges our greatest fears, and always, no matter what, moves toward us. Isaiah echoes this comfort, promising that we will not be alone when we pass through deep waters or face the fires of trial. So in a world often drenched in pain, suffering, and injustice, it is a gift to remember that we are formed and made by a God who loves us and will never leave us. We tell the kids all the time, God loves us and will never leave us. And that God names you beloved. This is what God does with us. God takes the fragments of our lives and stitches them into a story of redemption. And each of us is a piece of that quilt. Mary's story is a piece of the quilt, Isaiah's prophecy is a piece of the quilt, and so are ours. And every one of us has a story that needs to be told. So, my loves, as the secular season swirls up, kicks into high gear, the world especially needs us to be a radical blessing. How do we do that? Well, I have a little three-parter for you again. 3 spiritual practices. 1, claim your belovedness. Begin each day by reminding yourself that you are a blessing. And I want you to try this breath prayer. We're going to breathe in and say one thing and breathe out and say the other. We're going to do it 3 times. On the in, we're going to say, in you, O God. And on the out, we're going to say, I find my worth. So it's going to go like this. In you, I find my worth. In you, I find my worth. In you, I find my worth. One more time, real deep. In you, I find my worth. Let this prayer ground you in the truth of your belovedness, especially when the world tries to tell you otherwise. 2, bless others. Look for opportunities to affirm the worth of those around you, especially those who feel unseen. Speak words of blessings to your family, to your neighbors, and even strangers. I know it's hard because the world's pretending like nobody needs blessings. But be a blessing. Speak the word. Something as simple as the guy at the grocery store, you could say to him when he hands you your change, well, nobody gets change anymore, but the guy who helps you with your bags, you are a blessing today. Thank you. If that's too scary, you could say, God bless you, or just bless, and run away. 3, reframe your challenges. When life feels overwhelming, remember Isaiah's promise. When you pass through the waters, I will be with you. Your worth is not determined by how well you navigate the storms, but by the God who walks with you through them. So as we set wholeheartedly into the Advent season, let us reclaim the truth that we are not burdens, we are blessings. That's the message for you today. This is where our story begins, not with hustle or scarcity, but with God's declaration of belovedness. Like Mary, may we trust the angel's words. Do not be afraid, baby, you found favor with God. Like Mary, may we respond with a yes, let it be with me, and put our stories out there, stories of faith and recovery and blessings. And like Mary, may we carry love into the world, knowing that the radical nature of blessing is not just something we receive, but something that we live and share. So may I finally close this long sermon with this blessing. You are a blessing. If you hear nothing else, if the wind howls, if your brain runs amok, if rebuttals and denials line up like little toy soldiers, then hear this. You are a blessing. I knew it the first moment I met you. I knew it in my bones, the way my feet know the way home. You are a blessing. For our creating God breathes life into your very being. And there is simply no way that along with that life, some of God's goodness didn't slip in. So tell the rebuttals to rest. Tell the toy soldiers to find another hill, because this one is reserved for joy and celebration. You are a blessing. Breathe it in. You are a blessing. Breathe it in again. You are a blessing so that you can be a blessing. May it be so.